Today we are talking about a product that I've been getting a lot of questions about, and one that I've been eager to test, and that is the new Garmin Xero chronograph. So I have had this for a few weeks now, and I've got to use it on collecting some data on ammo for the ammo library. So if you're interested in that, check out this video up here. I will leave a link down in the description. So basically I'm creating an ammo library of different types of ammunition that you guys can use for scope carbine or whatever in your training, just so you guys have a database to kind of go off of and see how one ammo compares against another. So they're all out of the same barrel. Environmentals are mostly the same, and you can find a round that makes sense for you, 223, 556, different grains. So you guys can see all that. But I got this because I wanted to answer some of the questions people had about it, and I wanted to see if it worked better for me in my workflow as I collect data on my Sons of Liberty and prepare for matches for quantified performance and other scope carbine. And then also as we get ready for some NRL Hunter stuff and Taylor's doing load development. So just a better way to see if it made sense to use this to collect data versus using the Magneto Speed that I've been using. Really quick about the Garmin, I did get this from Bauer Precision. Now I did buy it there, but there is a link and coupon code down in the description. So if you're interested in getting one of these, they do have them in stock. You can go get one there. It'll save you some money. So how I tested this was I just took it out on a range session, tested a few different types of ammo with it just to see, how does it function? How does it work? What's the user interface look like? Is it accurate? Are there any like little kinks or nuances with it that maybe you should be aware of? Right off the bat, I can tell you the interface is super easy to use. There's not a ton of buttons. There's not a ton of menus. So it's pretty straightforward. So to get in, you do have to go through and create a new session. And you can go in there and check and pick rifle, pistol, bow, air rifle, other, or whatever. You can pick whatever you want in there, and then you're gonna go in there and essentially just set the grain in there. Now, I do have some data in here from the session that I did. So you'll see 3 sessions in here. Now, this first one is the one we're gonna look at. This is the Freedom Munitions. So this is the ammo that I shot at the last match. It's what I've been training with. It's what I've been using just currently just to see. And I wanted to see how this data compared directly to what I was getting out of the Magneto Speed. Comparing this, the Garmin, super easy to set up. You just take it out, essentially, you set your session, you put it next to the gun within range. It tells you within 5 to 15 inches, and it tells you back of the muzzle. So it makes it pretty straightforward. It's very, very simple to use, very straightforward. And then using that, the data that I got on average was a average of 26 out of my Magneto Speed. I was getting 2630 or 2629. So very, very close. And then I got a standard deviation of 35.3. Again, with my Magneto Speed, I think I was getting like 38 or 39. So very close. So consistently about 3 feet per second off. Now that could have been that the environmentals had changed slightly in that time, but very, very close. Like most of us can't tell the difference in 3 feet per second. The main thing is that if you are using this, or if you're using the Magneto Speed, that you're using them consistently and setting them up the same way every time. And it's really important that you always go and true your data. So whether you're using this or the Magneto Speed or something else or whatever, make sure you true your data using your Kestrel or your ballistic solver to make sure that your data is true on target out to whatever distances you need to shoot. So for us, it's typically out to 1,000 yards or beyond. Very rarely do we shoot past that, but for some guys who are doing bolt gun, you may need to true out to 14, 15, 1,800 yards. So you get your summary, which gives you 10 shots. It's my average feet per second, gives you your standard deviation. And then you can even look at the shot list and go through there and kind of see more of the data and see what you're looking at. They do have an app that goes with this, and I've said in other videos, I don't like to use apps with any of my stuff, whether it's with my Kestrel or whether it's with a rangefinder, with this, anything else. I just don't like to use my phone and use apps. It's just, for me, it's just a pain. It's another thing I have to worry about. So I prefer to go straight forward out of here, but the app is very helpful. It's a little more intuitive, a little easier to use because you can swipe on the screen and click and swipe things. So it makes it a little bit easier in that sense. So you may prefer that. That may be something that wins you over. But that's, for the most part, just like how you set it up, how you use it. Very, very simple, very straightforward. It does come with the little tripod to set it up. So you can set it up on your own, at the range. Area 419 does make a mount. So if you're using ARCA and you're using Area 419 ARCA, you can mount that on there as well. I know there's a few other people who do it as well, but it's an easy way to do it. So how does it compare to the Magneto Speed? Because that's what I've been using. It's how I've been collecting data this whole time. So as far as setup goes, ease of setup, the Garmin for sure wins on that because it is easier to set up. Because for me, I use suppressor covers and I hate having to take them off and then get the little spacers for the Magneto Speed, put them on, make sure you're aligned correctly on the height, and then collect your data, and then you have to put the suppressor cover back on, and it's like, it feels very clunky. It doesn't feel very intuitive to me. And that's a personal thing. If you're only shooting one gun, or maybe you have the mount that connects to ARCA or to M-LOK and that's what you use to collect it, in which case that works great. But for me, because of what I do on the tubes, I test a lot of different guns and testing different ammo. So this just makes it easier for me to set up and do very quickly. It's also a much smaller package. So that makes it easier to travel with. So it's something I can take with me to matches. And the other thing I like is that there's no point of impact shift. So I don't, in the past, what I would have to do is I would have to collect one group for velocity and get my data that way. And then I'd have to do a second group to confirm that my zero hadn't shifted after having the Magneto Speed attached to the end of the suppressor. With this, I don't have to do that. And I can just do it all at once. I can collect my zero and make sure, see what it's grouping at. And then out of that same group, I'm also collecting data without ever affecting impact shift, without ever having to worry about putting a suppressor cover on or off. And then I can switch to another gun or switch to another ammo very quickly. In terms of accuracy, how accurate is it compared to the Magneto Speed? Well, the Magneto Speed was dead on. So when I collected data out of the Magneto Speed, the number that I got out of there when I trued data with my Kestrel was the exact same. It was exactly the same. So there was no discrepancy there. So I do think the Magneto Speed is going, just by design, is going to be more accurate because it's using the magnets to measure the speed. But again, your accuracy is going to be dependent on if you are setting it up and using it correctly every time and setting it the same every time. So if you are not doing that, you're going to get some variation in the information you're getting. It's going to be bad data going in, so you're going to get bad data going out. So it's really important, again, that you set it up the same every time. But I do think the Magneto Speed is probably more accurate. I've seen some other guys and talked to other guys who have seen anywhere from like 6 feet per second to like 9 feet per second difference between their Magneto Speed and the Garmin. Again, there's a lot of factors in that, like how is it being set up? Are you setting them both up properly? You know, how are you collecting that data? So there's some human error in there, but I think it's accurate enough for most people. And if you're only using this to collect data, meaning the Garmin, then you'll be fine because your data is always going to be the same. And again, as I said before, always got to true it. In terms of portability, now the Magneto Speed does come in a case. It does come with everything you need, but the case is substantially bigger than the Garmin. The Garmin, I can just take this, throw it in a bag. I can even throw it in my pocket if I want, but it is obviously much smaller footprint, easier to travel with than if you are carrying a Magneto Speed. I can throw this in my backpack and take up less space than if I were taking the Magneto Speed and trying to put that in a backpack. Usually I'd have to carry the case separately or buy a different case or just try to jam it in there and hope it doesn't get broken. So cost, how do they compare in cost? The Garmin is a little more expensive. The Magneto Speed is about $50 cheaper on retail. Now, if you have a coupon code on either one, obviously it'll save you more money. But again, when we talk about having to buy adapters, if you are somebody who wants to mount it to a rail, it's going to cost you more money to do that with the Magneto Speed, and the Garmin you can just use without ever having to buy any of those adapters, unless you wanted the Area 419 to put that on there, but again, an additional cost. But out of the box, the Magneto Speed wins on price. Now, this is the one that I think will be the deciding factor for a lot of people, and that is versatility. So the Garmin is the clear winner because it is much more versatile. You can do much more with it than you can with the Magneto Speed. You can't do those things with the Magneto Speed. So it really just depends on what you're doing. So who is this for? If you're somebody who has a lot of guns, if you're somebody who uses suppressor covers, you travel a lot, you collect data on a variety of things like pistol, rifle, and bow and arrow, then yes, this is obviously gonna be better for you. If you already have a Magneto Speed and you really haven't felt there were any shortcomings with it, there's really not a need to switch from it. So, you know, I have the luxury of trying both, but I never felt like I needed to get something else besides the Magneto Speed. It did well for me. It did what I had to do. Was the setup, did it take a little more time? Sure, but that's just a convenience, right? Like we're talking like maybe a minute or two more of time setting up and taking down versus using the Garmin. So maybe that matters to you. Maybe it's worth getting rid of the Magneto Speed and spending the money to get a Garmin. Maybe it's not worth it to you. That's up to you to decide. Now, in terms of negatives, I haven't really seen anything negative of it personally. In using this, I will say that the only time you're gonna run into an issue as far as collecting information is if you try to shoot too fast. If your shot strings are too fast, it's not gonna pick up every shot. So you do have to wait for it to calibrate and read to get the information and then take your next shot. So it is a little bit slower in that sense. The Magneto Speed, you can just pump out rounds and you won't notice it. But that's the only downside I've seen. I haven't really seen anybody else complain about it. I know there's some people who said maybe there were some bugs with it, but I haven't seen that as a widespread thing. That might have just been a one-off thing. Now with electronics, you know, it could be whatever. I think it will take time and it'll take a lot more people using them to see if there are more issues that come out. But if this is something you're interested in, again, check out the link down in the description. There's a coupon code that saves you money. Make sure you hit that like and subscribe. Karate chop that bell so you get notified every time I upload a video, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Battery's gonna die. That's why I had to rush through it. You know, but what is it called? The Xero? To try test out?